and welcome to the Wake Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Alejandra Moreno, and today I have with me Pedro Salim, a very, very good friend from over
Long time.
30 years.
Yeah.
We've been friends for a long time. We grew up together. We went to college together, and now we're colleagues together.
Yes.
And I wanted to have you on the show because you practice mainly immigration law,
Yeah.
and I wanted you to tell us a little bit about your firm.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I've been following your podcast. It's fantastic. And we've been friends for, 30 plus years.
Yikes.
I practice primarily immigration law. We do a little criminal, personal injury. I've been practicing now for over 15 years. My main office is in Miami, but we also have an office for over 13 years now in Fort Myers. So we service all of South Florida and Southwest Florida. And we're in the process of hopefully acquiring another office up in Jupiter. So we're just trying to grow. Obviously, immigration is a big hot topic, and
Yes.
we've been very busy, thankfully, the last 8 months. But obviously, it's very difficult times for all my clients and what we're going through right now with immigration.
Oh, and living in South Florida, I mean, this is like the gateway to immigration, right?
Yeah.
We have so many transplants living here, so I'm sure that keeps you.
Yeah, we are the capital of Central and South America.
Yes.
So we have tons of clients from Mexico, Venezuela, Cuba, all the countries, even Haiti. So we represent a wide range of clients from all around the world.
Great. And immigration is federal, right? So
Correct.
I'm only licensed to practice in Florida,
Yeah.
and I do probate, estate planning, guardianships mainly in Florida. But you practice pretty much all over the United States.
Correct. So we have clients throughout the whole entire United States. And what was happening recently is that up until recently, when they built Alligator Alcatraz, there was no space in the detention centers in Miami. So my clients that were being detained were being sent to other states like California, New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, Georgia. So I was practicing immigration law every day in different states. I had
Wow.
sometimes one day where I had 5 different hearings in 5 different states.
Wow.
Thankfully, post COVID, a lot of it's virtual. So I'm able to represent my clients throughout 5 different states and 5 different, days through WebEx, through Zoom. So that's been very helpful for that. But yeah, we practice in all 50 states. We have clients in South Florida that have relatives in other states. We just were in Memphis the other day. We did a big trial. We won in Memphis, Tennessee. So we practice everywhere.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you have to be so aware of all the different, not just the federal law, but the state laws, because with everything going on right now, there are a lot of states suing the federal government
Right.
for changes in, immigration and things. So you have to be really
Yeah.
practicing in every single state.
Yeah, immigration is one of these things that every day is a different day. Every day we get to the office. Did any laws change? Did anything pass? Because depending on what happens in one state, it could affect all 50 states.
Exactly.
And then when it comes to criminal charges, when we have a client in another state and they were convicted in another state, we have to look at both the state statute for that state and the federal statute, and then compare the two and see how that affects his immigration case.
And I'm guessing a lot of your clients that have some kind of criminal component to their immigration status, because you practice in the criminal field as well,
Correct.
that makes you a very,
Correct.
a
Well, that's one of
great
the reasons
option.
why we practice criminal law, because our criminal cases go hand in hand with our immigration cases. I would say the majority of our criminal clients are also our immigration clients. Unfortunately, we see in my office in Fort Myers and Naples, there's a lot of racial profiling with the police.
Yeah.
And people get pulled over all the time, because they're black, they're Hispanic, and they pull them over, they ask for their driver's license, and then the minute they arrest them for no driver's license, ICE is already ready to put an ICE hold on them. So we represent them for the criminal case, and then we follow up with the immigration case.
That's amazing. And I've heard, we don't see that as much in South Florida, but
Correct.
I've heard that in other counties, even speaking English with an accent, that's enough to trigger,
Absolutely, yeah.
getting somebody in a world of trouble.
No, and now that I've been lately, in the last 8 months, since I've been before many judges in different states, I've realized that how, depending on what judge you go before and what venue, is huge difference.
Yeah.
Like a judge in same case, a judge in California will grant you a bond within a second. A judge in Texas won't, or a judge in Arizona won't. So
Yeah.
it's very obviously they're supposed to go by the law, but politics plays a big part in their decision making.
Of course. And the fact that you practice in all these states, you're starting to get, to know all the judges.
Correct.
Which is, I mean, that's amazing. I have very few judges, and I know what I can bring before what judge.
Correct.
But having to do that, literally all over the country, that's incredible.
It also depends on what president and during what administration they were placed into the position they're in. So if it was a conservative president or a liberal president, that plays a big part in their decision making, which it shouldn't, but it does.
So you have to be aware of the law and the politics of
Correct.
it.
Absolutely,
That's amazing. And we just changed administration not too long ago, so I'm sure everything is kind of upside down.
Yeah, I mean, immigration is one of these things that every 4 years when there's a new president, one president is a little more lenient and one's a little more strict when it comes to immigration policies, even though the some of these laws that are being enforced now have been in the books for decades, but they're just being enforced.
Yeah,
whereas in the previous administrations, they weren't being enforced.
Right.
So that we have to, that also plays a part in our case. We get hired by clients and they hire us for XYZ, and then 2 months later, XYZ is not available anymore. Now we got to figure out what other ways we can help them.
And we were just talking before we started the podcast about, social media, and I'm sure that plays a big role too, the media, and there's a lot of fear mongering, and I'm sure your clients come to you like, I saw this on TikTok, or I saw this on, whatever newspaper, and you have to navigate that too and be like, that's actually, not true. It's not accurate. Or
that is literally our life, picking up phone calls every day. Half the calls we get from our office, besides people calling about their cases, is people saying, hey, I heard this on the news. We heard this on Univision, Telemundo. How does this affect my case? I'm like, look, stop watching the news, because the news obviously is out there to scare you, because they want to get viewers.
Right.
And not everything that you see in the news is accurate.
Yeah.
So, just take it with, a grain of salt.
That I was also reading about the difference between preparers and attorneys. And what I've heard is, there are these people, you kind of come to their office, there might just be like a notary, and they fill out the form that they think you might need for your case, they notarize it, and then they give it back to the client, and the client goes on their way. Clients do this because they think it's going to be a lot cheaper than going to an attorney.
Yep.
But from what I've seen, preparers are charging attorney prices.
Yeah, sometimes.
And you don't have that hand-holding, you don't have that explanation, you don't have that representation throughout the process that's so important. So a client should not think, I can't afford an attorney, let me just go to a preparer. It's probably more detrimental to their case.
Absolutely. Well, first off, the problem with a lot of my clients that come from Central and South America, notarios in their country are attorneys.
Yes.
So when they come here, they see a notario, they think, oh, perfect, I'm going to hire this person. He's an attorney. And by the way, he's 50% cheaper than this real immigration attorney. So I'm going to do it with the notario. There's actually a new law that Ron DeSantis just passed that notarios cannot practice immigration. They cannot give legal advice, which has always been the law, but now it's being enforced.
Exactly.
So the problem is that you go to a notario to fill out an application. Yeah, notario can fill out, let's say, a petition or citizenship. And hopefully you get a good one that does a decent job, because we've seen some really bad things. But then it's hard for you to be able to sit with a notario and go over an application without them giving their personal opinion and legal advice, which they're not supposed to. So notarios are not supposed to tell you, oh, do this because then you can do that, because that's giving legal advice. And that obviously is against the law.
Right.
A lot of times people go to these notarios because they, for example, they come from Venezuela or Cuba, they hire a notario to file their asylum application. And then when they get to court, they need an attorney. The notario can't represent them in court. So then they go to an attorney, and the attorney's going to charge them what it would have cost them from the beginning. And then we reviewed the application. We're like, this application is terrible. They didn't feel this right. They didn't explain this. So now we have to do an amended application, which is sometimes worse, because now I can't go against what the notario put, because now it's going to look like my client lied on the application. So I always prefer to do the application from the scratch.
Beginning. Yeah, from the beginning. Absolutely. Wow. So it's better just to go to an attorney from the jump.
Absolutely, yeah.
Have the proper representation, and what a notario is charging you might be kind of the same as an attorney, and you don't get that representation or the explanation, the hand-holding. So, Pedro, why don't you tell us where we can find you? Do you have a website? Are you on social media?
I'm trying to be everywhere now.
Aren't we all?
My office is located right across from Dayland Mall, off of US 1 and 88th Street. We have an office in Fort Myers as well, so we handle all South Florida. My website is salimlawfirm.com. You can go on my website. You can submit an inquiry. We have a lot of blogs that we do on the website with current events, different subjects regarding immigration, criminal, and personal injury. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, Salim Law Firm also. I try to stay active on social media, try to post, every week or so, different topics, different news to try to inform the community about what's going on with immigration.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know that you will be back very soon, in a few minutes. It's been great having you, and it's been great reconnecting. Thank you all for joining us. And as we say from ASM Law Group, preserving what matters most for those who matter most.